Uses. Uses of information. You have heard that keeping the heart is the great work of a Christian, that in which the very soul and life of religion consists, and without which all other duties are of no value with God. Hence, then, I shall infer, to the consternation of hypocrites and formal professors, that the pains and labors which many persons have taken in religion are but lost labor and pains, to no purpose, and such as will never turn to account. Many great services have been performed, many glorious works are wrought by men, which yet are utterly rejected by God, and shall never stand upon record in order to receive an eternal acceptance, because they took no heed to keep their hearts with God in those duties. This is that fatal rock upon which thousands of vain professors have split themselves eternally. They are curious about the externals of religion, but disregard their hearts. Oh, how many hours have some professors spent in hearing, praying, reading, and conferring! Yet, as to the main end of religion, they may as well have sat still and done nothing. For all this signifies nothing if the great work, I mean the heart work, is all the while neglected. Tell me, you vain professor, when did you shed a tear for the deadness, hardness, unbelief, or earthliness of your heart? Do you think that such an easy religion can save you? If so, we may invert Christ's words and say, "Wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to life, and many there be that go in there." Hear me, you self-deluding hypocrite, you who have put off God with heartless duties, you who have acted in religion as if you had been blessing an idol, who could not search and uncover your heart, you who have offered to God but the skin of the sacrifice, not the marrow, fat, and innards of it. How will you abide the coming of the Lord? How will you hold up your head before him when he shall say, "O you dissembling, false-hearted man, how could you profess religion? With what face could you so often tell me that you love me, when you knew all the while in your own conscience that your heart was not with me?" Oh, tremble to think what a fearful judgment it is to be given over to a heedless and careless heart, and then to have religious duties instead of a rattle to quiet and still the conscience. Hence also infer, for the humiliation even of upright hearts, that unless the people of God spend more time and pains about their hearts than generally and ordinarily they do, they are never likely to do God much service or be owners of much comfort in this world. I may say of that Christian who is remiss and careless in keeping his heart what Jacob said of Reuben, "Thou shalt not excel." It grieves me to see how many Christians there are who go up and down, dejected and complaining, who live at a poor, low rate both of service and comfort. How can they expect that it should be otherwise as long as they live at such a careless rate? Oh, how little of their time is spent in their closets in searching, humbling, and quickening their hearts. You say your hearts are dead, and do you wonder that they are so as long as you keep them not with the fountain of life? If your bodies had been nourished as your souls have been, they would have been dead too. Never expect better hearts till you take more pains with them. He who will not have the sweat of religion must not expect the sweetness of religion. O Christian, I fear that your zeal and strength have run in the wrong channel. I fear that most of us may take up the Church's complaint from Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 6. They have made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. Two things have eaten up the time and strength of the professors of this generation, and sadly diverted them from heart work. One is fruitless controversies started by Satan, I doubt not, to take us away from practical godliness and to make us puzzle our heads when we should be searching our hearts. Oh, how little have we minded that saying of the Apostle in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 9, "It is a good thing that the heart be established with grace, and not with meats," that is, with disputes and controversies about meats, which have not profited them that have been occupied therein. Oh, how much better is it to see men live exactly than to hear them dispute subtleties. These unfruitful questions have divided the churches, wasted time and spirits, and called Christians off from their main business, from looking to their own vineyard. What think you, sirs? Would it not have been better if the questions agitated among the people of God in recent days had been such as these? How shall a man discern the special from the common operations of the Spirit? How may a soul observe its first declinings from God? How may a backsliding Christian recover his first love? How may the heart be preserved from unseasonable thoughts in duty? How may a bosom sin be discovered and mortified? Would not these have tended more to the credit of religion and comfort of your souls? Oh, it is time to repent and be ashamed of this folly. Suarez was a papist who wrote many tomes of disputations. He said that he prized the time he set apart for the searching and examining of his heart in reference to God above all the time that ever he spent in other studies. And when I read this, I am ashamed to find the professors of this age yet insensible of their folly. Shall the conscience of a Suarez feel a relenting pang for strength and time so ill employed, and shall not yours? This is what your ministers long since warned you of. Your spiritual nurses were afraid of the rickets when they saw that only your heads had grown, while your hearts had withered. Oh, when will God beat our swords into plowshares? And by that I mean beating our disputes and contentions into practical godliness. A second cause of neglecting our hearts has been earthly encumbrances. The heads and hearts of many have been filled with such a crowd and noise of worldly business that they have sadly and sensibly declined and withered in their zeal, love, and delight in God, in their heavenly, serious, and profitable way of conversing with men. Oh, how has this wilderness entangled us! Our discourse and conferences, nay, our very prayers and duties, have a tang of it. We have had so much work outdoors that we have been able to do but little within. It was the sad complaint of a holy one, Mr. William Strong, who said, "Oh, it is sad to think how many precious opportunities I have lost, how many sweet motions and admonitions of the Spirit I have passed over unfruitfully and caused the Lord to speak in vain. By the secret voice of His Spirit the Lord has called upon me, but my worldly thoughts still lodged within me, and there was no place within my heart for such calls of God." Surely there is a way of enjoying God, even in our worldly employments. God would never have put us upon them to our loss. Enoch walked with God and begat sons and daughters. Genesis chapter 5, verse 19. He walked with God, but did not retire and separate himself from the things of this life. And the angels that are employed by Christ in the things of this world, for the spirit of the living creatures is in the wheels, are finite creatures, and cannot be in two places at one time, yet they lose nothing of the beatific vision all the time of their administration. Matthew chapter 18, verse 10. Their angels, even while they are employed for them, behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. We need not lose our visions by our employments, if the fault were not our own. Alas, that ever Christians who stand at the door of eternity and have more work upon their hands than this poor moment of interposing time is sufficient for, should yet be filling both their heads and hearts with trifles. Hence I infer, for the awakening of all, that if keeping the heart is the great work of a Christian, then there are but few real Christians in the world. Indeed, if everyone who has learned the dialect of Christianity can talk like a saint, if everyone who has gifts and parts, and, by the common assisting presence of the Spirit, can preach, pray, or discourse like a Christian, in a word, if such as associate themselves with the people of God and delight in ordinances may pass for Christians, the number then is great. But alas, to what a small number will they shrink if you judge them by this rule: how few are there who make conscience of keeping their hearts, watching their thoughts, and judging their ends. Oh, there are but few closet men among professors. It is far easier for men to be reconciled to any duties in religion than to these. The profane part of the world will not so much as dabble with the outside of religious duties, much less with this. And as for the hypocrite, though he is polite and curious about those externals, yet you can never persuade him to this inward work, this difficult work, to which there is no inducement by human applause, this work that would quickly discover what the hypocrite cares not to know. So, by a general consent, this heart work is left to the hands of a few secret ones, and I tremble to think in how few hands it is.